Bonjour, bonsoir, dear friends. JCB Live, wine style. The rooster is with me. This is the ultimate garden experience. All of you, dear friends, need to start your own garden. Today we're going to show you, middle of the summer, what is fantastic to grill at home and how to pair it with the best wines. This is why we are here at DeLoach Vineyards in the Theater of Nature. Come and join me and see how beautiful this garden is. We're going to meet Joe Papendick, who runs all our gardens, and he's going to show us what goes very well with Zin. Remember, grilling corn, beets, and even tomatoes and all kinds of vegetables is fantastic. Not always think about sausage or beef or fish. You could make it a veggie grilling experience, and it's great. So come with me and I'll show you how to start your own gardens. Here we are. So you could see those beautiful colors, and naturally one of the best vegetables of all time. The sunflowers are moving. We'll go back to the tomatoes, but the best guide for all that is Joe Papendick. Joe, are you here? Oh, hello, look at that. He's appearing from the corn.
I have a glass of our Russian River Zinfandel.
Great idea.
Excellent. And it goes great with the garden. It goes great with some corn. Cheers.
So Joe, the master gardener of all our estates and the master landscaper as well. And well, Joe, let's have a taste first and foremost. So we are having the DeLoach Russian River Zinfandel. This is the magnificent 2018 vineyards, and you can see that new packaging with a beautiful estate label. Looks fabulous. You see earth and sky and the winery itself. And this is cool climate Zinfandel. So this is softer, not as ripe, not as rich in alcohol, not as intense. I love the lightness and the elegance of it. Is it perfect for barbecuing?
Perfect. That lightness and elegant goes really well with vegetables. Vegetables sometimes have a little higher acidity, and they need that to be balanced with a nice soft wine or a light wine. Corn, barbecued, grilled, wonderful time to celebrate summer, the sweetness, and just the beauty of the height and the power of the plant.
So Joe, why do you like corn on the grill, and how would you prepare it? And then why with Zinfandel?
There's a few ways to prepare it. My preferred way, I keep it on the husk.
Yes.
Get the grill going, or even a fire with your coals, and allow the husk to actually burn away.
I see.
So you burn the husk, it steams the kernels inside, but leaves a little bit of a smoky flavor. Oh. That goes well. I think it adds to the sweetness of the corn, the kernel there, and then just a little bit of butter and salt. That butter, of course, is always a
butter is the
treat.
recipe. You like olive oil as well with your corn, or more butter?
I prefer butter. Olive oil is great. Olive oil has that little bit of pepper in it and a little bit of a vegetable vegetable flavor, but it gets messy. Practically, butter, rub it on there, and it just melts into the kernels.
I've had, and I know you love it as well, a Mexican recipe with Mexican spice on the corn. It was magical.
Oh, it's delicious. You do the elote with a mayonnaise cream sauce, the chili piquin or chipotle, and a little bit of fresh cheese on top. Excellent again.
You're making us hungry.
Yeah, and that would go well with Zinfandel.
Yeah, with Zinfandel, with the spiciness of this wine. Yeah. Now, corn, can everybody grow corn in their garden?
No, unfortunately we can't. You need
That's the tough one.
A lot of space.
Yes.
So the advantage here, you notice there's plenty of room between us and more room behind me and more room around me.
Yes.
Corn needs a minimum of 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet to be pollinated. To set those kernels in a corn cob, it's naturally pollinated by wind. These tussles will be moved through the wind. Its pollen's going to move to the next plant, but it needs to be able to move to enough plants to have.
So those move to the next plant.
The pollen in these will be released, and it has to come to. It can't pollinate itself. It needs to pollinate another plant that's nearby. In order to have efficient and successful pollination, you need to have that 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet. And then a longer space. So the larger concentration of corn you can grow, the more successful those corn will be in setting its fruit or setting its kernel.
Those look beautiful, very healthy. Yeah?
Very healthy.
And how many corns per?
Well, it depends on the variety. So you can't set, if you're growing a larger hominy or starch-based corn, those will set one really large kernel per plant. Other ones will have multiple, up to 6 to 8 per plant. But it really depends upon the variety and its size.
Wow, that's fantastic. Great advice. So if we have a little bit of a garden, we could still do corn, because one, it looks beautiful, and second, it's very good on the barbecue.
Excellent, yes.
So what else shall we discover for this summer, not only to plant in your house and at the same time to be able to grill? What else do you suggest?
Let's take a walk. We have cabbage.
I'm following you.
Grows year-round. So let's take a little walk this way.
Perfect. This is so exciting. As you could see, this is the theater of nature. One of those beautiful expressions of what Mother Nature has to offer.
So
I'm going to set this one in here because, God, this is kind of a picture perfect.
It is. It's a perfect little cradle to nestle our cabbage, and we'll go and pick a new wine.
Oh, here we are.
Osf Delores Zinfandel.
So this is O.F.S, the outstanding wine of DeLoach, and we say that because Mr. DeLoach himself always was saying this term, and it ended up on the label, and it became a very iconic wine from DeLoach Vineyards. So not only we make a Zinfandel, a Chardonnay, and a Pinot Noir O.F.S, and this is basically the collection of some of the best estates all around DeLoach that really mingle and get married within this great bottle of wine. And what would you pair it with?
Well, I was thinking we're gonna have to barbecue. What goes right in the nice side of coleslaw or a pickled cabbage salad.
Ooh.
Different types of things. So cabbage, we have a number of varieties here. We have a red variety, a Savoy cabbage.
Wow, the Savoy is amazing.
Yes.
Dylan, you gotta come close because this is the French one. And Joe, I'm gonna do something I shouldn't be doing.
But enjoy, yeah, they're those tender cabbage leaves. The Savoy is a very sweet one, almost like a lettuce.
We are in August. I would have that as lunch because this is enough. This is fabulous, and the flavor. So tell us about this variety.
This variety, well, so it has those, the bumps, the texture, and it tends to be, so we're in August, it's gonna hold nicely, it's gonna set that head of cabbage, which you can see is just beginning to form. As we move into, it's gonna hold, so we'll be able to have, if we're not ready right at this moment to harvest this when it's set, we can wait till September, we can wait till October. We get a little kiss of frost, those cold nights in October, like with the grapevine where it helps develop that flavor.
Yep.
Cabbage will do really well, and essentially this will be our refrigerator. All winter long, you can just come out here, and when we need a cabbage, you go and pick it. You don't need to worry about harvesting it and storing it somewhere else or having it go bad.
So it stays fines in the soil?
In the ground, in the soil, it will hold all winter long.
So this is the Savoy from France. What about this gorgeous one?
Yes, this is a red rock cabbage.
I mean, we gotta come closer here.
You see the texture and
wow.
See the color.
This is the red rock cabbage. So where is that from?
Ooh, I do not know the history behind where it came from, but I would imagine Northern Europe, either going northern to Germany or potentially all the way up into Russia.
Wow.
Or Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Very common to have cabbages and cabbages throughout winter. That's something, I think sauerkraut going very well with a sausage.
And Joe, you plant all kinds of different things around it. Is it
Correct.
to help the
It
growth? So tell us about what you've done here.
So in all throughout our estates, practicing biodynamics, it's important to have biodiversity. Plants aren't growing on their own in isolation, but everything is interconnected and needs support from other plants. So in this case, we have next to me a sunflower.
For sure.
We have the bachelor button just about to go into flower. Has a few buttons there.
Yeah, it's here.
Yes. And then even a few weeds. We have amaranth. Amaranth is a common grain and also leafy green. And it volunteers, but at the same time it volunteers and it allows us to do the work of attracting beneficial insects, to bring those insects in that can fight off a pest. We do see a few signs of maybe there was a cabbage loper that came by and gave a little nibble, also tried our cabbage. But the cabbage isn't being decimated.
And it wasn't me, I promise. Even though I went for the French one.
Yes.
I like that one too, though.
Yes, well, and they go well together. To have that, the slices and the color, you get that confetti look in your coleslaw.
But I gotta say, if we come closer and look at Mother Nature, look at how gorgeous that is. I mean, it's amazing how beautiful.
The nature's design there, where you have the intricate
look at this purple color
and the veins.
And with that Zinfandel, Joe, I think with the O.F.S, which is a little richer, denser than the Russian River per se, I think it works beautifully. Granted, all the grapes come from the Russian River as well, but we're looking for a style which is a little more corpulent. I mean, look at the two together. This is fabulous.
Stunning.
Yeah. I mean, I encourage everybody to start their garden. You know, we started this at DeLoach 17 years ago, and Joe, you've made it more gorgeous than ever before. It's looking fabulous. And to see all the insects floating around and
the life that's here that's supporting, interconnected, both this and also to help support the vineyard.
So how long does it take to grow, to be perfect?
Cabbage very differently. The Savoy cabbage, as you can see, it's already forming that little bit of a head, is, I would say, quick, 70 to 90 days before it forms. And also this depends on our temperature of our air and how long our day length is. The rock 120 days, so considerably longer than that Savoy cabbage.
That's great.
Well, even if now in August we wanted to plant cabbage, we could do that, plant it. It's frost hardy, so it will handle the cold winter, and you would have it ready for February or March. It goes a lot slower during the winter months than it does in the heat.
But that's great because it really gradually put us into the rhythm of the season and into the rhythm of the plates and the change of the diet.
Exactly.
Talking about that, there's another fantastic vegetable you want to show us today.
We do, and I know you can't resist hanging out in the tomatoes. So
that's right.
So let's go ahead and jump in and see what we can find.
Well, and I know you've selected another wines as well. So Joe is, of course, guiding us into one of my favorite vegetables on earth. Coming from the Americas, as we all know, the famous tomatoes. So, Joe, we're going to obviously pair it with a forgotten vine Zinfandel. But first, the garden.
The garden, yes. So tomatoes, summertime, definitely the treat, the jewel of all the heat is a good tomato. And there's so many varieties, so many different types. Looks like you have a very nice Cherokee purple heirloom tomato that only come in, produced for a short period of time there at the end of summer. It's such a
and explain us what you're doing with all the seeds and everything within the process between DeLoach and Raymond. You keeping the seeds, and every year obviously introducing new varieties as well.
We're developing locally adapted varieties that can help do well. For DeLoach, for example, is very different than the property at Raymond. And that's also why the wines are differently expressed than what we find from Raymond and what varieties are grown there. With the tomato, in the Russian River, we have a wonderful foggy mornings that come in. It's much cooler. They don't have the long heat that we have in St. Helena. And so the growing pattern is very different for the tomato plant than what we see in Raymond. And then also when they ripen, and their flavor and expression will be different too, even if you have the same plant. And so finding ones that survive do thrive in this environment with the coldy, misty mornings. Some of that cold mist can unfortunately bring disease, and so we want to have plants that can withstand that cold climate that we have with the Russian River.
So the one I'm having, you said, is which variety of tomatoes?
The Cherokee purple.
Wow.
Yes.
And it's very meaty, it's very rich, it's very intense. And I think it will go so well with this wine. So the wines you see Joe is holding is called the Forgotten Vine. Brian Maloney, a director of winemaking at DeLoach, has a brilliant idea many years ago. He said, those are pre-prohibition vines. Why don't we call them forgotten vines? Because some people had forgotten them. And we thought it was a brilliant idea. So pre-1933, the vines at the height of Joe and I, roughly 6 feet, like a mini tree in essence. They almost, some of them, 100 years old. The oldest, I believe, is from 1896. And it gives you that unbelievable ripeness, richness. So very small yield per rootstock, maybe a ton and a half if we're lucky. But it has that amazing skin, that great juiciness, and dark purple. So this is very interesting tasting today, because we went from the Russian River, the overall DeLoach, then to the O.F.S, the finest selection, and finally to a vineyard designate that is the Forgotten Vine, that really brings the intensity, the richness of what Sonoma County is about. So how fun to grill vegetables and Zinfandel.
Yes.
Don't they work well together?
It is. It's a treat to be outside and to enjoy the garden and enjoy wonderful wine.
So dear friends, come and see us. As soon as you come, we'll be grilling vegetables. And Joe, you know, besides corn, beets, and of course, beautiful cabbage, and the Dream Tomatoes has a lot of things up his sleeve. So contact us if you want to plant your own garden, and come and visit, because this is a delight. Wine and grilled vegetables.